Welcome to Central News for Wednesday, 29th of May. I'm Amy Forrest. In today's news, green growers per tray returns are up on average by 21%, according to Zespri's annual results announcement yesterday. Zespri announced its highest ever average returns per hectare for green growers of $37,959 per hectare from the 2012-2013 season. Green Growers Chairman Mike Smith says some of the improvements in returns have come from competition for crop among post-harvest operators, which has driven down packing costs. Tasty beef and lamb dishes have helped a Waihi restaurant win a top National People's Choice Award. Bistro Restaurant at Falls Retreat near Waihi has won the Beef and Lamb People's Choice Award for the Bay of Plenty Coromandel region. After 6 weeks of voting, Bistro held the highest rating in the competition, and Bistro chef Brad King is thrilled with the win. The competition aims to profile and reward the excellent standard of beef and lamb available in New Zealand restaurants. With the All Black halfback talent pool overflowing, the battle of the halves heats up this week, and one player thriving on the intensity is Chiefs halfback Tawera Kerr-Barlow. The energetic halfback is one of 38 players who trained in the second All Blacks training camp in Mount Maunganui as they look to plan their dominance of France in the upcoming Test series next month. With 4 halfbacks in the squad, including Piriwepu, Aaron Smith and TJ Perenara, Kerr-Barlow knows there is no chance to rest on recent performances, thanks to the high-flying Chiefs currently sitting at the top of Super Rugby standings. Field Days has announced the finalists who will vie for the Field Days Rural Bachelor of the Year title for 2013, with 3 men from across the ditch in a trans-Tasman clash of rural codes. In an unexpected twist, Field Days announced this year's lineup to include not just 2 Aussies as originally planned, but 3. They will join the 5 Kiwis selected from across the country to compete in this year's competition, which takes place at the Field Days in June. 2 of the finalists hail from our region. They are Fergus King and Tom Beasley, both from the Waikato. Now for our region's weather. A few cloudy periods tomorrow with the odd shower, a high of 16 and a chilly overnight low of 4. Tauranga, the sun is out for you tomorrow with a high of 16 and a low of 8. Just ahead, the Strand in Tauranga is now a safer place. Welcome to Central News on TV Central. Tauranga City Council is extending the city centre night management plan to try tackle problem drinking in the CBD and make it safer for the public. Hilary Entwistle found how the council hopes to do so.
So what is the city centre night management plan?
It's basically the key agencies, the key stakeholders getting together and looking at ways of improving alcohol-related issues on the Strand, and generally, looking through initiatives and working out, how we can improve the situation down there. And the good thing about it is it's a non-regulatory method of improving safety.
What were the recent changes that were made?
Basically, we had the Strand Night Management Plan, which was more of a reflection of actually where most of the licensed premises were, but as town has grown and changed, we've sort of identified that it's more a city centre plan. It's probably more appropriate to look at covering where we're expecting people to go out to the car parking buildings and walk a little bit further. So just generally making the entire downtown Tauranga a safe place.
Why did this need to happen?
Well, basically where you have a collection of licensed premises and an entertainment precinct, the potential for there to be adverse effects is always there. And quite frankly, quite some time ago, probably a good 5 years ago, the Strand actually was a very dangerous sort of a place. And we saw the need to actually do some really good improvements to try and make it a better place. And I think we've really succeeded at doing that. The CCTV statistics support that there's way less issues going on down there. But we really looked at some of the CPTED principles, the crime prevention through environmental design, removing the railway hedging to open it all up so it's easier for people to see, improving the lighting. One of the other probably key things that we did was we opposed any licences that went past 3 a.m. because basically it just really changed the dynamics of downtown. When you get to 3 o'clock in the morning and people have been on the terps all evening, there's a bit of chaos, and so trying to close it back to 3 a.m. as opposed to 5 a.m. Just really changed the dynamics of downtown. Also, we closed one of the main supporting car parks after 10 o'clock because we felt that we kind of had two crowds. We had the dining type people that were down there, and then we had the more the younger sort of social type people going on after say 10 or 11 o'clock. So we closed that car park because we did find we had quite a few young people in the car parks, which is a public place, so they were entitled to be there, drinking from their vehicles and then trying to intermingle with the grown-ups on the Strand, I guess. And of course, so that created a lot of issues. We felt that there might be some displacement from closing that down, and there probably was for a little while, but it tended to subside. And it's really changed the dynamics. And another one issue was moving the pedestrian walkway, which was generally through the centre of the outside area that each premise occupied. And that created problems as well, because again, walkway is a public place, so you could have underage people there. And the licensees were finding it hard to manage their area when they had a pedestrian walkway right through the centre of it. So we moved that to the outside and gave them full responsibility of the area that they occupy. So just a lot of those types of things that we've worked through with the key partners have really made a difference, and the crime has just plummeted. It's really good. And we're at the point now where we really need to celebrate that, and we need to talk to the community and say, hey, get back down here. This is a neat place.
Because, the Strand is quite an interesting place. You've got those diners and then those nighttime drinkers. Is there a time when they're sort of clashing?
Probably as it gets on a little bit later, but not too much of a clash because they are quite distinctive, different groups, and they tend to be, the diners tend to be at the restaurants which are not the taverns. And there's space between, and they do tend to leave at around that sort of 10 o'clock mark. So, and some of the younger people don't come into town until midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning. I don't quite know how they do it, but they do.
Is it a particular group of people that are the problem?
Well, I wouldn't say that there actually is a problem now. I think it's really well managed. When, like I say, when you get a collection of licensed premises, there's always the potential to be, alcohol-fueled problems. But quite frankly, there's not much happening in terms of issues. The licensees are really responsible. We've undertaken some bar and door staff training. We've got really good communications now between the door staff and other premises, but also we have a base set with the camera operator. So these people have got a direct link with the camera operator, who then has got a direct link with the police. So those things have made such a big difference. Also, the police have got a dedicated policing team that come out quite early, and they look at issues that are likely to escalate and sort of deal with those early in the night before they do. And just as a result of all the combination of those things, so many of the issues have subsided.
Are bars on the Strand generally quite good at cooperating with those alcohol laws?
Absolutely, yes. It's their business. They have to do it right, and I think the benefit of the city centre night management plan is it's a non-regulatory way of addressing the issue, and everyone's involved, everyone's taking responsibility, and it's making a big difference.
And how much is preloading part of the problem?
I think preloading and the culture of drinking in New Zealand is a problem. I don't quite know what the answer is to fix it.
How much are Strand drinkers costing ratepayers and damage that they create?
Probably nothing, really. They don't really cause any issues.
So now the Strand is a good place to go?
The Strand and the city centre itself, it's got a lot on offer. Really good restaurants and really good nighttime entertainment with minimal issues.
To view the new city centre management plan, visit tauranga.gov.nz and follow the links. Coming up next, a very talented local woman. Welcome back. A Waikato local woman has self-recorded her own classical crossover album, and for New Zealand Music Month we thought we would catch up with her and find out about the album.
Anna, tell us about your album Journey On that you've just recorded.
Well, Journey On is a collection of original songs that I've written, and as well as covers. It's really exciting. It's my first probably full-length album since I was about 14. So it's really, I've been waiting to do this for a really long time. It's kind of a mix of music, so there's kind of classical, contemporary, Celtic, even cinematic styles in there. So it's quite eclectic, and the title song, Journey On, is an original of mine, and it just felt right to be the title song because I like to take people on a journey with my music, and it's also been a journey just making the album itself. So.
I imagine so, because you actually self-recorded the album. Tell us about that.
I did. Well, that's actually a unique answer to that question, because last year I really wanted to go to the UK and Europe to basically make connections and ultimately record an album. And I was singing on a friend's album in January, doing sort of backing vocals for him, when I met a Polish producer named Paweł Zarecki. And in conversation with him, he mentioned this guy called Ross Cullum, who's worked with the likes of Enya and Clannad. I'm not sure if you're familiar with those artists, but they're amazing. And he just kind of said to me, hey, I've worked with this guy, you should definitely get in touch with him. And I just looked at him and laughed, because in my research I'd written him down as someone that I really wanted to work with. So Paweł Zarecki had also worked with him on these albums, and I'd basically been admiring his work. And so it all happened very quickly after that, and I ended up heading overseas to work with both of them. So.
Wow, it must have meant to be.
Yeah, it's kind of like a funny coincidence, really. It all just came together really quickly, so it's not normally like that.
Yeah. I mean, what was it like working in Poland and London?
Oh my goodness, it was amazing. It was amazing. At times it was kind of surreal, and obviously, you know, there's always challenges. You're in a different country, a different culture. I basically arrived in Poland in June, and we started on the pre-production of the album. So that's like programming, arranging, orchestration, and doing the demo vocals. And then we recorded all the orchestral instruments in Poland in a little place called Białko-Biała, which is south of Poland. And to put that in context, it's like 38 million people in Poland. So there's 8 million people in Warsaw, and there's a lot of people, there's a lot happening. And yeah, so we recorded, you know, like 25 string players, harp. We had a professor of percussion, get it right, in there, drums, guitar, bass, this amazing guy that could play like all different kinds of flutes. And then obviously I finished the album in London, so I recorded my vocals there, and we did the mixing and mastering. So it's a pretty long process making an album.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
How would you describe your style of music?
It's basically classical crossover is the correct term, but to describe that, it's bringing like the styles of classical, contemporary music together, and it's also kind of Celtic. A lot of my music is Celtic. I have Irish heritage, so I think that, you know, influences the style of music that I write. And it's quite cinematic too, so you've got, you know, big, lush orchestral arrangements, and you've also got more intimate songs like Eva Cassidy's I Know You by Heart, or an Italian translation of a love song by Lone Star, Amazed. So it's quite a mix.
So I suppose then, if it is quite a mix, would it appeal to everyone, you reckon, your style of music?
I'm actually quite surprised at the range of people it appeals to. A lot of people think that it appeals to, you know, your older generation, but I have a lot of young people once, you know, come up to me after hearing me and just really enjoy the music. So, and I think people that like, you know, Lord of the Rings or Braveheart, or, you know, this big cinematic, big music, they're gonna like, hopefully, they're gonna like my album. So, yeah.
Sounds like good housework music to me. to
Yeah,
put
it was
on the
quite
map.
inspirational.
Yes, yeah, to inspire me to do the vacuuming. So have you got a big plan for the launch of your album?
Yeah, I'm really excited. I've just started planning a launch event. It's going to be in the Waikato. It's invite only, but it's going to give me a chance to put on an exceptional show. So just to kind of release the album, have a celebration and put on something that's a showcase, you know.
I mean, it's New Zealand Music Month. Do you think that it's quite hard to make a living out of being a full-time musician in New Zealand?
From my experience so far, I would probably have to say yes. At the moment, for example, you know, my expenses are exponentially higher than my income. But I kind of put it down to it's like startup costs. So any business has startup costs, and this is like a business in a way. And it's just, you've got to put the money in for it to start growing. And but at the end of the day, in saying that, it's what I love to do, and it's never really been about, you know, having this lucrative money-making career, but more about, you know, making music that's really good and that people, you know, can hopefully be inspired by.
To find out more about this talented musician, visit annahawkins.co.nz. Just ahead, the housing policy. If you have just joined us, welcome to Central News. In the government's budget this year, Bill English announced a housing policy. The opposition was in town last week, so Hilary Entwistle caught up with Labour's spokesperson for housing, Phil Twyford.
What are your concerns over National's housing policy?
Well, basically National are doing, well, not quite nothing, but they're pretty much sitting on their hands. And housing is one of the biggest problems facing the country now. A whole generation of young people are effectively locked out of the housing market. All of the pressure, the unaffordability, the shortage of housing is also having terrible consequences for the people who are on the bottom rungs of the ladder, who are forced into substandard housing. And often into really unacceptable situations, living in caravan parks, that sort of thing. So it's bad, and it affects everyone but the well-off.
Do you think that a capital gains tax would actually help the Auckland housing crisis?
Yes, a capital gains tax will have a significant effect. It will lower the cost of housing by a significant amount. It will also take a lot of the speculative heat out of the market. And there's hardly an economist in the country who doesn't believe that a capital gains tax will be a good thing. We are one of only 3 countries in the OECD who don't have a capital gains tax. It will exclude the family home, but what it will do is that it will channel investment away from rental housing into more productive areas of the economy that will create jobs and prosperity.
So what would your answer be then to the Auckland housing crisis?
Well, the big problem that we have in Auckland, but actually also right here in Tauranga, in Christchurch and 1 or 2 other places, is that there's a terrible shortage of affordable homes. The market has simply not been building enough affordable homes. It's building some upmarket expensive ones, but most people, the kind of houses that most people can afford, are simply not being built. So Labour will build, we will work with the private sector and councils to build 10,000 affordable starter homes, which we will sell to first home buyers every year for 10 years. So that's the first thing. We'll deal with the supply issue and build high quality affordable homes. While we're doing that, we will address all of the things that are making houses so expensive. Capital gains tax is one thing. We will negotiate with industry to drive down the cost of building materials. We'll work with councils to bring new land into the system. There's a whole series of things which we'll do, but first and foremost, we will build high quality, affordable starter homes. And that will put 100,000 New Zealand families into their first homes.
But if you're building houses faster and cheaper, could we not potentially look at another leaky building syndrome?
Well, that is the challenge. We have to build homes that are affordable, but we know that we want to build homes that a generation of Kiwis will be proud to live in. Think of the state homes that Labour built in the 30s and 40s. They're now selling for $1 million, right? We can build good homes. We've done it before, and we will do it again.
What areas of the housing policy will affect Waikato and the Bay of Plenty regions?
So if we take Tauranga for a starter, this place has got one of the highest rates of unaffordability anywhere outside of Auckland and Christchurch at the moment. So we will work with the council here, we'll work with the builders and the property developers to deliver a good volume of affordable new starter homes. That's the first thing that I think will make a real difference. There's a real shortage of state housing, and we know that we've got to reform Housing New Zealand and build more houses. That's the trick. We have the worst housing affordability crisis in living memory, and the national government all it's doing is shuffling pieces around the chessboard. Labor will get serious, roll our sleeves up and build more houses, both for first home buyers and for Housing New Zealand. So those two things will make a big difference here in the Bay of Plenty.
Do you think other areas have been neglected in the new national housing policy?
Well, I think that it's been very focused on Auckland, and I think people around the country are saying, why should my taxes get spent simply reinforcing the out-of-control growth that we see in Auckland? And the answer here is that the country needs, New Zealand needs, good regional economic development. The reason that people go to Auckland and put up with an hours-long commute in the morning to get to work, or an extra $200,000 to buy a house, is that there are jobs there. So we have to have an economic policy that fosters job creation and economic development here in the Bay of Plenty, in South Island, everywhere around New Zealand. Otherwise, we're going to end up with a two-speed country, Auckland and the rest. And that's just not good for New Zealand.
So how do we pump up those other regions?
Well, I think it's about generating sustainable economic growth. It's about the regions using the advantages they've got, the resources that they've got, and government playing a smart role to assist. For instance, in the Bay of Plenty, you'd have to say that timber and processing wood product has to be one of the best opportunities that this region's got, and yet the government is doing nothing at the moment to foster that and create opportunities. We generate a lot of smart ideas in New Zealand, and the trouble is they get developed and then flicked off overseas, and some other country, some other company gets the benefit. Now we need to turn that around so that those ideas translate into Kiwi jobs, Kiwi firms, and build our economy.
That is the news for today. We really want you to be involved, so like us on Facebook and let us know your views. If you have any news, including your own video or photos, go to our website and hit upload. Thanks for joining us. Those were your stories from our regions. I'm Amy Forrest. Have a lovely evening.
This has been an Alpha Media production, a division of Television Media Group.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.